National Bubblegum Day. Thanks for being here, Rafi, and for bringing, man, that was good. Already
I'm trying to blow a big bubble.
Yes,
Good one.
I know.
And of course, a pink bow tie perfectly matches bubblegum theme
You
color,
gotta
right?
do it, yes. So what flavors do you have over there? I want to. Can you?
Yeah, there's different fruit flavors here.
Okay, fruit.
That is later coming out. The original bubblegum
Yeah.
is right here.
OG.
Yeah, Double Bubble is what it's known as. That was the original first bubblegum that came out. Not the first gum, but the first bubblegum. Because
Okay.
when gum was popular, bubblegum was a form of, let's say, competition, right? You say there's a certain kind of gum, like Wrigley's gum, which was very popular.
That's right.
Bubblegum came out because of chemistry. They were working on it to try to make it so you can blow more bubbles. And there was a couple versions early on, but this is the one that hit because of the employee at the place that was trying to create the bubblegum.
How did the day, National Bubblegum Day, get its start?
It's like a lot of things where you have someone that submits for the day to start from the industry usually.
Okay.
So in this case, it would be folks from gum that are trying to remind us about gum. What's interesting is that gum is actually declining in popularity now compared to historically speaking. Yes, it is, and so that's part
Not
of the
at my
reason.
house.
That's part of the reason some of the less popular flavors are kind of starting to get discontinued. But what's fascinating is that back in the day it was very different. So, for example, maybe about 100 years ago, on average, you had more than 100 sticks of gum that were being chewed per American.
Oh,
so
wow.
that was a big difference, and it was very popular at some point. And you look in the period, for example, look at the movie Grease, for example. There's a lot of gum chewing in the
There
50s and 60s, and that's representing, in that case, rebellion and pop culture and American freedom. So that's how we kind of get that association in the United States. And I did the thing where I was a bad kid. I would put it underneath the table sometimes 'cause I couldn't chew it anymore, and I would try to take it out afterwards, but then it stuck.
Oh,
yeah, but that's right, yeah.
Do you know, Rafi? So like this, you're saying is one of the oldest gums, right? And it kind of comes in this, I don't know what you call it, pellet form. I don't know whatever this is, but sometimes you have sticks. Like
Right.
That's right. That's the original form, is the sticks. The
Okay.
bubble gum comes in that form like that. So gum, just chewing on gum, goes back thousands of years. And it's always related to trees. So in Europe, thousands of years ago, you'd have like tree bark kind of liquid that you pull out of it. The Mayans would do They're doing a great job. The Mayans in Central America were doing it for thousands of years with the sapodilla tree. And what that is they would pull out what they would call the wax, or what we would call the wax. It's not the sap, it's the wax. It's going to be a little bit chewier. And then that is what is actually going to get exported to the United States. It's known as, we would in English say chicle, but they would say it's chicle later with the
Yes.
Spanish language. Mayans
Yeah.
didn't speak Spanish, but later on with the Spanish. And what's fascinating about that, a couple of influences, also is the indigenous peoples in North America had a version of it as well. So in the United States, what happens in the late 19th century is you have a version of gum that comes out in Portland, Maine, and the chewing of it is actually, it's not very great in texture, so it kind of evolves. And after the Mexican-American War, where the United States and Mexico fight, there's bringing in the Mexican culture, that's where the gum kind of comes into the United States and gets popular the way we know it, later leading to the Wrigley stuff, although there's predecessors to it. And one thing I'll say that's really fascinating is you may not realize, the Mexican president was involved. The Mexican president he had fought at the Battle of Alamo. He had led Mexican soldiers, serves multiple terms as president, and eventually is exiled. He comes, among other places, to the United States, and he's trying to develop rubber with a businessman in New York, which leads to the creation of the gum that we know today. Now, they don't succeed in rubber, but the Mexican president and the New York businessmen were trying to work on it. The president was Santa Anna, by the way. You might have heard of that name in different places. Yes. So that's right. They were trying to pursue something else, and then the gum thing. Now, the funny thing about Wrigley later on is that he was trying to pursue something else, too. He was selling soap. He was a soap salesman, and then was selling baking powder. He started attaching gum on there sort of as a freebie extra kind of bonus thank you for the business. He realized the gum was more popular. So then he starts selling the gum and does aggressive advertising. This is in the 1920s, 1930s. And when he does that aggressive advertising, you know one of the things he did? They opened the phone books at the time and shipped packs of gums to people's houses in cities so you can have it sampled that way.
I see.
And get
Wow.
hooked. That's right. So really a great example of how, it really becomes popular. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Any tips on blowing the perfect bubble?
We should be asking you. I think.
I know,
haven't failed
you
yet.
have to give those tips. You see, there you go. Yeah, it's exactly why bubble gum was created, to be able to do those bubbles. It's all about, obviously, the way you put your tongue against your teeth, right? And so it takes a lot of practice and YouTube videos.
And I would say you got to chew your gum really good because this gum, it does start off a little bit harder. So you do have to get a really good chew on your gum to kind of stretch it out a little bit to blow
I
the
love
bubble.
that you said that real quick. Is that chewing the gum actually takes a lot more energy than you think.
I know.
I was reading an article in the Smithsonian magazine a while back, and they were talking about how chewing softer gum increases the metabolic rate by 10%. Chewing harder gum, because it's harder to get it soft, just like you mentioned, to increase the metabolic rate by 15%.
Okay, you did it.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's on your nose, like you talked about
Great.
earlier. You did it all.
So it's a good workout to chew.
Yes. And it's delicious. I
It
know.
is.
Yes.
Now I'm sticky.
Now you're sticky.
Yeah, that's right. I hate it when it gets on my nose like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
How do we celebrate this day? Do we just go out and chew bubblegum?
I would. Hey, we got 300 of them here, so we'd be chewing for a while.
We gotta get started.
And then we got these, the newer versions, the fruity
Right.
flavors.
Yes.
So we got well over
I'm
300.
gonna switch flavors.
Wow, man, thank you, Ravi,
Thank
for
you,
joining us.
Rafi.